We are live.
Dan, how are you?
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Well, I read what you sent this morning. Bringing it up for you, both.
That's the only copy, I think.
Lots of goodies on the back.
Beckman. Good, Brett.
Michael, how are things going?
Good.
I should have
Okay, we'll
thought
call
about
this meeting to order of the Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Diamond, lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody today to our Board of Supervisors meeting. I'll ask the clerk to do the roll call.
Mr. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer? Here. Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier?
Here,
Mr. Drossy?
Here.
Ms. Hogan?
She's here, just stepped out.
Mr. Dickinson?
I am here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Ms. Seaver?
here,
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Runyon?
here.
Chairman Garrity?
Here.
Quorum is established.
Okay. First item of business is to approve the minutes of the January 21st meeting, subject correction by the clerk. Motion by Supervisor Driscoll, second by Supervisor Dickinson. Any discussion? Corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next up is the Employee of the Month, and I'll ask Administrator Moore, would you like to say a few words about our Employee of the Month?
I sure would. The employee of the month for this month is the assistant to the county administrator, Tammy DiLorenzo. She is not expecting this, but if there is a word for Tammy that I would use, it's indispensable. Tammy is the type of employee who, whatever the project is, you can give it to her. And you have the peace of mind in knowing that it's going to get done right, it's going to get done well, and it's going to get done in a timely fashion. And I can't tell you how much she does to support me in that regard. You all know that she plays a tremendous role here in these meetings and in the committee meetings. In better time. She does a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that this board gets its business done in terms of committee agendas, resolution review. Every resolution that's in your packet every week has my eyes on it and Amanda's eyes and Tammy's eyes on it. In addition to the county attorney's office, it's a lot of work to get all of that done. And it's something that's easy to take for granted. The budget process, Tammy's intimately involved with. The financial system, she's a whiz at it. I couldn't do it without her. And, you know, she's just a jack of all trades. She has a many and wide variety of tasks that she handles, and she handles expertly. And let me give you just one little story that is characteristic of Tammy. So on the 11th of January, we found out that our messenger, who has served us very well for 15 years, is planning to retire. And we had a compressed timeline to get a replacement in there by the retirement date. We essentially had to get the position posted. We had to take applications. We had to schedule interviews. We had to make a selection, make a job offer, and give that person enough time, 2 weeks, to notify their employer and to actually come here. And the goal that we had was to get the replacement in with a week or two overlap with Connie so that the replacement can be trained. So it was a very, very compressed timeline. Tammy got right on it. Within a week, had the position posted with the help of civil service and HR. The applications were out there for 2 weeks. They closed on January 28th. And Tammy called me and said, hey, do you want to get the interviews going now, or do you want to wait until February, what is it, 21st? And I'm absent-minded. I'm thinking about something else. And I'm thinking February 21st is the day that the application period closes. And I said, yeah, wait. And I realized over the weekend what I had done. And I called Tammy on Monday and said, no, we got to get these interviews done right now. And she said, I'm already on it. I've already been thinking about it. That was Monday. For Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Tammy set up and conducted 19 half-hour interviews for this position. In addition to everything else that was going on in our office, she worked extra, got it all done. And it was less than a month from when we found out that we needed to do this position until we made an offer to an individual who's agreed to take the job, and that individual will start next week and have 2 weeks of training with Connie. So just one of many examples of what Tammy does for this county, and she does it so well. Thank you.
Well, remember, it's during COVID because of the mask. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. We also are very privileged to have 3 people who finished the county leadership training. We have Tammy Breen from the Department of Social Services. Is Tammy here? No? We'll make sure. And then Joanne Conley, Director of Tourism. I don't see Joanne. And then Julie Montero, also from the Department of Social Services. So congratulations to those 3. And now I'll open up the floor, the privilege of the floor of public comment. Anybody wish to address the board this morning, please come up, state your name for the record.
My name is Dr. David Judkins. I'm a practicing cardiologist in this community for the past 33 years. I appreciate the board giving me the opportunity to address you today. Congratulations to Tammy. And I have a few concerns that I think the board should be aware of. A number of my concerns, or the major concern, Mr. Garrity, will be directed towards you.
Sure.
And I would appreciate any feedback or dialogue, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you today. As some of you or all of you know or should know, I was appointed to the county LDC board on December 31st by former Chairwoman Sieber. This was in response to the resignation from Mr. Diamond, which occurred on 12/31. Ms. Sieber contacted me and asked me if I would be willing to fill that position. She had contacted me several times over the past many years and has asked me to fill other positions on a volunteer basis, because I swore I'd never run for public office. And I agreed, and I've always agreed not to do it because my medical practice was just too busy. And I've always looked forward, I finished my medical training, I came back here, always look forward to coming back here, practicing in my community, raising my family in my community, and returning to my hometown. So when this opportunity came up, it was very timely, because effective January 1st, I reduced my medical practice to 3 days per week. So that gave me a fair amount of time to donate to my community and give back to my community. So after a discussion with various people, including my wife, which is of course more important than anything, I got approval and I decided to go ahead and do it. Ironically, one of the people that I spoke with was Bob Landry, who ended up taking the position, replacing me for the position, I should say. So on December 31st, Chairwoman Sieber sent out a letter to all of you and all the members of the LDC stating that she was appointing me and what my brief CV was. And to my knowledge, and I've spoken with her, no one on this board expressed any discontent or concerns about my being appointed to the LDC. There was an article by Kathy Deedy in the Chronicle yesterday. I'm sure most of you read that. I think she does a pretty fair job. And the question came up whether or not well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. On January 14th, I was appointed on the 31st. On January 14th, this letter went out to you from Mr. Garrity. It's actually a letter to Mr. Siplon, who is not the chairman of the LDC board. Mr. McDevitt is. Went out to Mr. Siplon, and it says that effective immediately, I, Kevin Garrity, as the sole member of the LDC, et cetera, am unappointing. I'm assuming he meant replacing or removing Mr. Judkins from the LDC board, and I'm in his place, I'm putting in Robert Landry. This came as a total shock to me. I had no notification of this whatsoever. Mr. Garrity, as far as I know, you and I have never met, never spoken, never communicated, and never been introduced. So the first question I have is, isn't it common respect that if you're going to remove somebody from a board, a community member who volunteers, that you at least give them the courtesy of a notification? You could have called me. You could have said, hey, Dr. Judkins, I've decided to go in a different direction. Mr. Landry seems like a better fit here. Would you be interested in doing this, that, or the other thing? Nothing. I received nothing. I've never met you or spoken to you until I received this letter, a copy of this letter that you sent to Mr. Siplon, who again is not the chairman of the LDC. In addition to that, Mr. Garrity, it looks as though you had no intentions of even notifying me, because I foiled the emails. And by the way, I foiled the emails. First time in my life I've ever foiled anything. Had to figure out how to do it. I foiled the emails from the LDC, your office in Warrensburg, and the county. And the only thing I received was from the county. I still don't have the emails from your office. I'm not sure why. And this is an email from Amanda Allen, the clerk, to you. And it says, take a look and let me know what you think regarding this notification of your replacing me, or unappointing, as you put it. Take a look and let me know what you think. As soon as this is approved, I added a CC to Judkins. Not sure if you want to keep it or not. Just thought it was an easy way to advise. I don't know about you folks. An easy way to advise a community member who steps up to volunteer for their community. I'll send them a copy of a letter that I wrote to somebody else to tell him that I'm canning him for the position that he volunteered for. Does that really seem respectful to anyone in this room? I can tell you, I felt pretty disrespected and disappointed. So, as I said, it came at a good time. I saw in the article, there was two things I saw in the article in the Chronicle the other day. One was, geez, was this about Just Beverage? Well, first of all, Just Beverage was in 2015, and my relationship with Just Beverage has never been better. The man who took over for Just Beverage, Mr. Moulton, has done everything he said he would do. He's a man of his word, and he has not lied to me one time. My relationship with Just Beverage has never been better. The other thing that came up in the Chronicle was, it said that Mr. Garrity and Mr. McDevitt, who I might point out that Mr. McDevitt was not included in any of the email chain of this until January 13th. This went on from the 1st to the 14th between Mr. Siplon and Mr. McDevitt, and not once was Mr. Garrity, and not once was Mr. McDevitt included in the email chain until January 13th. I was replaced on January 14th. And from the 7th to the 14th, there was radio silence. Now, does anybody in this room honestly think that there was not discussion about this off the grid? No one communicated anything to me. No one said, hey, Dr. Judkins, come on in. We really appreciate your ability to and your desire to volunteer for your community. So again, this came at a good time because I had a reduced schedule. And so I don't know, Mr. McDevitt, if you want to interject anything here before I go on. And I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to your response. I'm sure you'd like to say something. So then the other thing that came up was Mr. McDevitt and Mr. The chairman and Mr. Siplon all said that they chose Mr. Landry, who, by the way, is a friend of mine and I have great respect for, and I consider him a man of integrity. And I can tell you right now that Mr. Landry had no idea when he was asked to take this position that it was to replace me. And he apologized for that. Nonetheless, it said that they chose him because of his experience in housing and how important that was to the community. Well, if anybody had asked if anybody had spoken to me to ask me what my experience was, I've bought and rehabbed and sold in Warren County probably 10 or 12 buildings under my LLC with a partner of mine in the last 10 years. I recently got approved a multi-development rental building in the town. Just recently got that approved, and I'm going to close on another one next week. So it's not like I had no experience in housing. I've been on the board of 2 hospitals, elected board of directors of 2 hospitals, Mary McClellan Hospital and Glens Falls Hospital. And I was elected president of the medical staff of both medical staffs during my tenure there. It seemed to me, based on what Chairwoman Sieber had asked, she thought it would be a good fit. Maybe I could help bring some medical business to the community, bring new medical practices. We all know getting doctors here is a difficult. I don't know that anybody here has any medical experience. There were things, the post-pandemic era, would a physician be helpful in that setting? I don't have any problem with someone choosing someone over me. I don't have any problem with it. But I have a problem with the process here. Why should anybody in this community, in this county, volunteer for something if they're going to be treated in this manner? Not one word. We've never met, spoken, been introduced, nothing. And I get a copy of a letter from Mr. Garrity to Mr. Siplon telling him that he's taking me off. And as an afterthought, the county clerk says, geez, you think we ought to notify Judkins of this? Do any of you disagree that this could have maybe been handled better? I know many of you in this room, he could have asked any one of you. I grew up in Lake George, Mr. Dickinson. Little League, there's some people in this room that were involved in Little League with me. Some are patients, Boy Scouts. Could have asked anybody. Didn't ask anyone. There's another email that's a little bit concerning to me too. It's sort of a side note, but there's an email here. It was from Amanda. It says, Chairman Garrity has asked me to get in touch with you to determine his responsibility as the new chair with regard to the LDC. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Garrity, but weren't you chairman 4 times in the past? How could you not know what your responsibilities to the LDC were? And after you did, you could have thought to call me. I just don't understand, respectfully, sir. I guess I'll, you know, I think I've probably said enough, maybe too much, but I don't understand. I think that anybody, you know, one of the biggest concerns of the voting population today is transparency. And if this is the way people who want to volunteer are going to be treated, I don't know that that's, you know, really the way it should be. I can assure you that I'll not volunteer again. I wouldn't put myself in that risk. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And Mr. Garrity, I'll look forward to your response.
Okay, I'll reach out to you.
Well, I think the voting population would like to know what you think in public, sir.
I will reach out to you in the future.
Mr. Garrity, you're not actually suggesting.
Point of order.
No.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
No, let's not point of order every time.
Excuse me,
something says
excuse
something.
me.
Mr. Garrity, you're not suggesting that you're going to hide behind your gavel today, are you?
Absolutely not. I said I would reach out to you and I will.
Would you do it in a manner that I can share it with the public?
Sure. In the future.
Can I ask how long I might expect that, sir?
Probably within a week.
That would be great. Thank you
Yep.
very much. And thank you. for-
Anybody else wish
Thank
to
you for
address
all
the
you
board?
do.
Mr. Bates.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. First of all,
Sure.
Dr. Judkins, I'd like to apologize on behalf of myself and probably most members of this board for the treatment you received. A volunteer in this community, highly respected, was treated in such a manner that I would never, I can't see anybody else volunteering in this community. And by the way, the objective of this board and of many of these committees have been to get more volunteers and less elected officials. So what do? We take off the volunteer, we treat them like crap, and we bring on another elected official. To me, this was about as bad as it gets in the way government should operate. And I thank you for putting yourself out there, for volunteering, to put in the time and effort to make this your town and your county a better county. And again, I apologize on behalf of probably most members, should be all of them, but most members on the behavior you received from our chairman. So thank you.
Anybody else? Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to comment a little bit about the LDC, my experience in the city of Glens Falls with over 10 to 12 years experience. We encouraged people from the public to be part of the process, to take the political animosity out of the process. So, what happened to Mr. Judkins was wrongful, shameful, and it sends a bad note to the rest of the people in the community that want to be helpful. I've talked to several business people within the city that offered to help, but instead we continue to align our people with political posturing and political appointments. So I completely disagree with what Mr. Garrity did. And again, I feel bad for Mr. Judkins in this case.
Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Judkins, I apologize I'm not there in person today, but what I did want to say to you was that I certainly appreciate your willingness to serve. I felt very fortunate for Warren County for you to have agreed to serve in such a capacity and to bring to the table the wealth of knowledge that you had. And I had no idea that we would be moving into a year where you would be quote unquote unappointed. And it's sad to me that we lose good volunteers due to the lack of transparency. I too disagree with the actions of the current chairman, and I did want to personally apologize because I am the one that asked you as a sole member to serve. And again, just express my gratitude on behalf of my community and at the time on behalf of Warren County for your willingness and apologize for the lack of transparency. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you. I do want to apologize to Dr. Judkins, and I was deeply offended by going through this, but I'm not going to repeat what my other colleagues have stated so far. It is a total embarrassment, and I would like to put out there that I'd be more than happy to resign my position on the LDC to have Dr. Judkins appointed in my place, if that is possible. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to comment? Okay, reported chairman. My report for this month: attended numerous committee meetings. I participated in APA local government review board meeting via Zoom. Attended the ICE Capital grand opening ceremonies. Attended the finance, personnel, and higher education meeting, and I attended the Teamsters negotiations with the correction officers on February 11th. And yesterday I attended a LDC meeting. And that's my report for this month. Report by chairs. We'll start with Supervisor Diamond.
I guess the way I want to put this today is that you don't need to call on me simply because you have not appointed me to a chairmanship. I understand that. So I would hope that going forward, you would continue not to call on me because I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor McDevitt.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Bramer.
I am also not a chair of a standing committee. I do not need to be called upon for committee report. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The County Facilities Committee met on January 25th. There is one item in your packet of resolutions. It is number 42. And this is authorizing agreement, continuing agreement, the contract, I should say, with Cornell Cooperative Extension for the lease of the service building. So I would hope you would all support that. We discussed some other items, probably most notably the old jail building. We're proceeding with that, looking at the asbestos remediation, et cetera. So there'll be more on that in the future. And that is my report. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. Human Services Committee met on January 24th. There are no resolutions coming out of that meeting. However, there are resolutions that are coming out of other committees relating to, as Mr. Bruno said, Cornell Cooperative Extension, Countryside Adult Home, and I believe Department of Social Services. And that concludes my oh, actually, no, I just want to do a quick rundown of some Cornell Cooperative Extension activities. Of course, I send out that information to all of the members, including the members from the board that I serve with on that committee. Cornell Cooperative Extension is just hitting home runs all over the place. They're running a program, a parenting program called PS It Works. It's in its, I think, third week. The program focuses on replacing friendly skills and teach 5 basic parenting skills with highlight of key parenting issues. And we've got 18 families from the county participating in that. They also do budget coaching program. That's coaching volunteers who are working with SUNY Adirondacks staff to provide individuals and families who want to improve their financial literacy, set goals, create savings plans, and reduce debt. 4-H is doing a number of programs, and Cornell Cooperative Extension has a fundraiser on April 15th at an Adirondack Thunder game. It's a nonprofit of the night program, and if you need tickets, you can contact Cornell Cooperative Extension, or I'd be happy to get that information to them. Thank you.
Supervisor Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Health Services met on January the 24th. We have 8 resolutions as a result of that meeting. 60 and 61 deal with community services. The rest all deal with health services. Some are just appointing members to the advisory committee, appointing members to the early intervention coordinating council, authorizing the continuation of a lease agreement with Hudson Headwaters so that they can continue to have their WIC meeting and a room there. Amending a resolution to increase rates with various physical, speech, and occupational therapists, authorizing an agreement with Queensbury Union Free District to provide a committee on preschool special education, and authorizing an agreement with Mobile Help to purchase 5 Genesis personal touch tablet kits. And I would appreciate your support on that, and we will meet on February the 25th this month. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Drossy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. The Joint Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee meeting took place on January 24th. I extend my appreciation to all the department heads and who attended, and presented their positions on various resolutions that we'll address today. There's a number of them, most of them from the sheriff's office. I don't think there's a need to address each one of them now, but I think one of the main issues that came out of that, we were notified by the public defender, Marcy Flores, that she intends to retire in the coming weeks. So we expressed our appreciation and thanks for her service. And obviously this board will have an opportunity to do that in more a formal manner. But we started with the assistance of Administrator Moore, started the process of formulating and distributing a notice for a replacement. The next meeting will take place a week from today. We appreciate all the committee members that attended in the past and look forward to the next meeting. Thank you.
Supervisor Hogan, any?
Not a chair, no report.
Okay, Supervisor Dixon.
I am a chair. I have no report. And I hope that you would call on me if I wasn't a chair, because I often have something to say. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tourism, I'll give you some highlights on Ice Castle that we've gotten in from them. Unfortunately, with the weather, yesterday and today, they're closed, hoping to open up Saturday and Sunday. Next week is going to be an IFA week. It's going to be played by day by the weather. It doesn't look like it's going to be conducive to us. But all in all, they're extremely pleased with the response that they got from our area and the people that have seen Ice Castle. And they're already talking about meeting in April to work with the county on a multi-year contract for them to come back. So I think they really are successful. And if you talk to the treasurer eventually down the road to find out what our ox tax and sales tax has happened, and it's a lot of it because, and our business people are happy, I think. So that's about all I can say about Ice Castle right now, but keep in touch and we might get some more the next weekend. When it comes to March, that's up to them. Our travel guide is in. Everybody has a copy on their desk. We've added some more pages. It's an inspiring guide. It highlights a lot of stuff that's going on. It's a little short in some areas because of advertising. Back when we planned on getting it done, we weren't sure about the virus and what was going to go on in, January, February, March, April. So, but it's got a lot of good highlights. It's got 4 extra pages, and I think you'll enjoy it. And just for an FYI, we're starting to work on the winter tourism guide right now. So you can expect that available sometime in October. I thank you. And we have our tourism meeting on February 25th, the next tourism meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this opportunity. I haven't had that in a year. So yeah, as chair of the Legislative Rules and Government Operations Committee, who met on January 24th of 2022, we have 3 resolutions before you this morning. One is there was an oversight as we adopted the amended rules of the board, and in that the number of corrections officer positions should have been 76. That was an oversight, and this is a correction. Resolution 69. Again, we have received a grant for elections, cybersecurity remediation and mitigation. It was a grant of $79,297.03. No matching county funds needed. And they would like to extend the termination of that grant from December 31st to 21 to December 31st to 23. And the third and last resolution before you today is to amend an agreement with SG Risk to allow for biannual updates for the years to 2023 in an amount not to exceed $2,000 each year in a form that is approved by the county attorney. So, and I want to thank you, Kevin, Chairman Garrity. County supervisors who represent their corresponding communities And in my case, it was all the residents of the town of Queensbury as the town supervisor. I was largely ignored last year. So seeing you present an opportunity to give every supervisor an opportunity to talk whether they are a chair or not is a welcome change. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Economic Growth and Development met on the 24th of last month. There's 4 resolutions in front of the board. 3 are GIS related. That is our system to help with mapping and data. 2 are in support of shared agreement with Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board. The 3rd is a technical support agreement we have for the software. The 4th resolution is something that we all recognize as being a major issue with our local economy. That's housing and workforce. This resolution 59 is related to applying for a grant for a housing study. And I really appreciate your support on that. And this coming Friday, we'll have an Economic Growth and Development Committee meeting. I've invited Beth Gillis, who's the director of the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board, specifically to talk about the federal recovery monies that she has to loan out as low interest loans. The clock is ticking. It's going to run out. I think the interest rate is 1.9%. So spread out to your business community. There's monies that can be had at very low interest rate to support their growth. And that's all I have for today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Supervisor McGowan.
I am not a sitting chair anymore, so I have no comment. Thank you.
Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to take the opportunity to make a report, and I want to make that opportunity because this year we had very much respectful and meaningful debate on the rules of the board, and the rules of the board changed this year as they do every single year. And I'm so grateful that we all took the opportunity to read them and see that now our reports include both standing and special committee reports. While I am not a chair of a standing committee, I am of a special committee, and I do intend on having that special committee meet on a regular basis and confirmed by our county attorney has the full ability to pass resolutions to the full board. So I look forward to that, but I'm giving a report today because I do have activities that have taken place as a result of being chair of that committee. Just this past week, Supervisors Hogan and Supervisor Bramer both attended, along with me, the National Association of Counties training. We spent significant time over the weekend and the beginning part of this week taking training on the American Rescue Plan Act. Almost every single session highlighted important information, which I do have to bring back to every single member of this board. We also took a lot of training on multiple other issues, from housing affordability to childcare concerns, and of course heard from many state and national leaders. So I want to thank the board for the opportunity to go to the training. There's certainly many, many issues that have come up, and we've been provided with an opportunity to talk about that through committee. And I look forward to pushing and talking more about how important it is to have people on our committees that are well informed and trained, particularly in the American Rescue Plan Act. And I know there's a resolution in front of you today. I'm hoping my Wi-Fi will continue to be supportive so that I can support a request for a chair of that committee who has attended training and very well versed in this particular topic. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we know, all supervisors had a chance to speak at every meeting last year multiple times. So that this is basically a continuation of that. I'm not a chair of any special committee, standing committee, or any committee you want to make up. But I do have a couple comments. I'd like to thank the 3rd Ward supervisor from Glens Falls, the supervisor from Johnsburg, and the Queensbury Large supervisor for getting excellent training in ARPA. ARPA is going to be the $12.4 million fund that this county is going to be responsible for handing out to a number of different associations and agencies and so forth. So having training, attending meetings, it's pretty important to me. I think it's important to the residents of this county when $12.4 million is going to be handed out. So they went and got extensive training in that arena. They've attended 3 of the 3 meetings of ARPA. And I look forward to having a discussion on who's going to lead that ARPA committee, since there's only a few people that have shown the intents, the passion, and to do the hard work that's going to be needed. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I apologize to Dr. Juckins. I've never been more embarrassed in my life. Thank you.
Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Personnel Committee met on February 3rd. We had an extensive executive session with the county attorney reviewing the various lawsuits that the county is currently involved in. Also, the meeting generated 5 resolutions, and it's 85 through 89. And a couple of points of interest off 85 is the amending the table of organization. One is the Sheriff's Department, and that's creating 4 contingent correction officers to fill in for correction officers that become active military and serve in the military. So that's a way to keep the overtime down. And it fills that vacancy for that time that they're serving. There's an adjustment to the treasurer's office. 2 individuals were taken out of the bargaining unit, become non-bargaining, and their salaries have been adjusted in their pay grades. Creating the position of a messenger that was mentioned earlier for the mailroom. I think that's the main ones. There's other things, but also 86 is approving the agreement and settlement with the opioid case and ratifying the actions that have been taken by the chair of the board and the county attorney and our attorney for counsel for the county representing us on the opioid. 87 is was discussed in executive session, and it's a lawsuit that we've given the attorney the authority to negotiate and tender a settlement up to the amount of the deductible, the insurance deductible, in the matter of Quester French versus Derek Williams. 88 is authorizing the CSEA, the Civil Service Employees Association, updated education reimbursement policy that has been in place for the non-bargaining unit. And the last one is number 89. And that's authorizing a call-in rate for the Director of Public Health and for the Assistant Director of Public Health, and that's retroactive back to January 1st. And the Budget Committee did not meet. We will be meeting here first part of March. And I think that's about all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor Runyon, anything to add?
No, nothing.
Okay, report of county administrator.
I think you skipped the.
Oh, Supervisor, oh, I'm sorry, we're going back around the horn, sorry. Supervisor Conover.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works met on January 25th, represented in your packet by resolutions 72 through 83. I think it's all fairly self-explanatory. Of course, Public Works will come back to us after they receive the bids on the projects for award. I would highlight, however, resolutions 82 and 83. The first 82 to amend the license agreement with Revolution Rail to allow them to have a special event on the section of track specified in the resolution. This is being done at least in part to benefit the community in terms of funding, so it's something I think we should actively support. And resolution 83 is something that we do regularly, annually, I believe. And this is where we apply to DEC to receive funding to help pay for half the cost of the correct disposal of household hazardous waste. and I certainly would encourage everyone to support that resolution as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee met on February 3rd. I'd like to thank the members, Supervisors Thomas, Bruno, Merlino, Runyon, Driscoll, who were in attendance to put before you the 20 resolutions. 18 of them are roll calls. So I will not go into length on them, where we will, if there are any questions on them, please bring them up in discussion, but it's a good part of our meeting. We'll be doing roll calls. Would also like to thank other supervisors that were in attendance at that meeting: Bramer, Geraci, Hogan, McGowan, Sieber, and Stroud. Like to keep the committee meetings open. This is an important time where we get to sift through everything that's happened in the previous committees and come up in front of finance for approval. All input by all supervisors and department heads are welcome. What was mentioned by Supervisor from Queensbury about the housing, it was good to see a grant for that. What's that, number 100? And then also from Solid Waste and Recycling, 102 and 103. It was just good to see that these are coming along as well. You will also know that all supervisors received email about the sales tax reports. It's up about 28% for the month of January. So we're looking good on that. Treasurer, is there anything you'd like to add at this time? You don't have to come up if you don't.
No, I think I'll pass.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just says it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Also, you were all sent out a letter from ARCC about the Farm Labor Wage Act overtime bill, and that can be discussed in committee if needed. Also, again, I'd like to thank Supervisor Bramer for being elected to the Climate Change Committee at NISAC. Based on what we're seeing here with our fuel bills and electrical bills, anything we can do to try to get our energy under control is very important to people up here. So again, thank you, Claudia, for stepping up and getting appointed to that committee. I expect that you'll be able to help us up here with the fuel costs and electrical costs in the future. So thank you. Report Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As always, I want to highlight employee anniversaries, and we have one this month with 30 years of service in the Public Health Department is Valerie Wisnot. So we thank Valerie for her commitment to public health, her commitment to the citizens of Warren County, and all the hard work that she's put in over the COVID response. Thank you. As you all know, the county received a very large allotment of at-home test kits to be distributed as soon as we can out to the general public. We received over 17,000 kits yesterday from the state of New York. We will have communication forthcoming from Mr. Lehman over our social media regarding public pickup locations. But those public pickup locations will include the town halls and city hall. We have a retail partnership that will be ready to be announced within the next couple of days for retail locations where members of the public will be able to pick up tests. And we may possibly do a pickup here at the County Municipal Center if we have enough left over. We've allocated about 90% of the inventory that we have. We typically will pause on the remainder to pick up those that we may have missed that put in requests after the first distribution. But of that 90% that's allocated, 95% is already out the door. And that was the report I received this morning from Anne Marie down in OES. And thank you to all 20 supervisors for the role that you played in helping us get that done. Very, very impressive. We got that much out the door already and ready to be deployed in the community. Thanks also to Anne Marie and her colleagues in emergency services, and thanks to Don for all of the work that he puts in with communicating this out. If you need any help in communicating your distribution plans from your towns and the at-large and ward supervisors, just let Don know and he's happy to step up and do that. I mentioned earlier that our messenger of 15 years is retiring at the beginning of March. And I wanted to publicly acknowledge the great work that Connie Van Ness has put in here at the county. She is one of those unsung heroes who, without her work every day, the county would not function. All of the mail that comes in and goes out that's critical to our operation, she's handled it, and she's handled it for many years all by herself, in addition to the print shop duties. So we're going to miss Connie, and we very much appreciate her expertise and her willingness to help out in training her replacement. There's a provision that we'll go through today to allow Connie to stay on an as-needed basis for a period of time after her retirement. And we're very thankful that she's willing to do that. It'll be time well spent. So thank you, Connie. Since the January 21st board meeting, I'll highlight some highlights. On January 26th, I attended virtually the NACO Northeast Regional meeting, which dealt primarily with ARPA. And I also attended later that afternoon the Ice Castles ribbon cutting. I plan on going myself with family on Sunday, so hopefully it freezes back up again. I am so happy at the economic activity that we've gotten from Ice Castles. You only need to look, I think, at the January sales tax reports to see that last January was stellar and this January is even better. So we thank Ice Castles for being here, and we would like this relationship to last well into the future. On the 31st, I attended the Department of Homeland Security and Warren and Washington OES Tier 3 emergency management training for local officials. It was a lengthy training. Some of you were on it, and it was very informative. Thanks to everyone who put that training together. On the first, I participated in the beginning of the messenger interviews. I did as many as I could with the schedule that we had, and I thank Tammy and Christy Miller in my office for picking up and covering for me on those interviews that I couldn't make. On the 11th, we had our first negotiating session with the Teamsters. Went well, and we look forward to continuing negotiations with them. The Teamsters, you recall, just took over the responsibility for negotiating on behalf of our correction officers union. And we had a very spirited and friendly and happy and funny discussion. So we look forward to continuing that. And on the 15th, we conducted the workplace violence annual review, which is part of the policy. It's done to make sure that our policy is working, that we're not having repeat claims from offenders, if you will. The majority of the complaints that we get originate out of DSS, and it's usually due to the very difficult work over there with difficult situations with clients. But we did that review, and everything seems to be working just fine. Thanks to everyone who helps out with that. That's my report.
Okay, report of county attorney.
Thank you, Chairman. During the Personnel Committee meeting, there was a substantial report on existing lawsuits. There's currently 12 active, what I'm calling active lawsuits involving the county. That excludes the opioid litigation and the bankruptcy action regarding the Saratoga and North Creek Railway. Out of those, not included in those 12 are 3 matters that have resolved. One is LeClaire v. Vinson, which was a case in the Northern District of New York that went to trial out of the Department of Social Services, and there was a verdict in favor of the county employee in that matter. There was a decision and order issued on the Maxim v. County Clerk matter, which was distributed to the board by me. And additionally, as you see from the resolutions, there's a proposed settlement with one of the opioid manufacturing companies, Allergan, and I'd be open and willing to have further discussions if there were discussions requested by the board in executive session regarding any of those 3 settled matters. We have been served with a new lawsuit since the last board meeting. It's captioned Cap Rude v. County of Warren. It is being covered by insurance under public officers liability coverage. And council has been assigned to that and is responding to that summons and complaint. In the area of opinions, my office is attempting, when we identify what we think is a significant issue or an issue that involves, in our judgment, a requirement of a significant amount of time, and an issue that we think we will see again in the future, we are trying to do what we're calling a formal county attorney legal opinion. And we're publishing that to every member of the Board of Supervisors, as every member is a client per statute of the county attorney. And we're providing it to every member of the Board of Supervisors, even though some opinions may not immediately, it may not be immediately clear why you're receiving it. It's normally an issue that's been raised either by a board member, a department head, or an employee of the county. Something that is coming before the board at the next meeting, or something that will soon be coming through committee. In addition, so there were 4 of those that we issued since the last board meeting. I have a separate category that we're kind of calling informal opinions. We spend most of our day, certainly a majority of the workday, providing legal opinions to various departments throughout the county. Sometimes the issue is significant enough where we want to capture it for future reference, but we don't want to put it in a more formal document. So we're referring to those as more informal opinions. There have been 6 of those topics that have been addressed since the last board meeting as well. On the tax foreclosure front, which is coming up quickly, the last round of warning letters has been issued by my office to delinquent taxpayers and for delinquent properties. As of February 16th, there are 296 parcels that have been identified as delinquent. We're estimating approximately 1,786 petitions will have to be printed and served based on that number of delinquent parcels. Subject to any questions, I would ask for a motion for executive session if there's no questions on any of those matters.
Seeing none, motion to go into executive session. Supervisor Hogan, second.
Reason.
For what reason? Yeah.
Well, the reason is to address an incident which occurred on October 15th of 2021. Also to address any questions that may exist regarding resolutions 86, 87. Any questions from the board regarding any of the formal opinions that were issued since the last board meeting? Those would be the topics I would be seeking potentially to discuss. The reason for the executive session is found under section 105 of the Public Officers Law, specifically regarding the incident on October 15, 2021. It's a discussion of matters that may lead to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person. Additionally, there is an exemption from open meetings law under section 108(3), which provides that any matter that's made confidential by federal or state law is exempted from the open meetings law. That has been interpreted as attorney-client communications and attorney work privilege, each of which would be part of the conversation and discussion regarding the October 15, 2021 incident. And additionally, as to resolutions 86, 87. Those are discussions regarding pending and current litigation under section 105D. And the discussion of the formal opinions, if there are any questions, again, would fall under the exemption under 108.3, any matter made confidential by federal or state law.
Ms. Hogan, still?
Yep.
And second by Ms. Frazier to go in executive session. Any opposed? So be it. Yep. Yes.
And I apologize. I had asked if the county treasurer would be permitted to remain for the executive session. I apologize for the lateness of that.
Okay.
Request.
You are live.
Okay.
What's in it?
All right, we can go ahead. We're back in regular session.
Yes, back in regular session, we took no action in executive session. I should say the executive session resulted in no further action to be taken today by the Board of Supervisors. There were 2 votes in executive session. This regards the matter that the county attorney mentioned before going into executive session that transpired at the October 2021 regular board meeting. There was a vote on whether to table the matter for a future meeting that failed. And there was a vote as to whether to accept a report prepared by the county attorney and myself. And that also failed. So there was no action further to be taken by the Board of Supervisors on the matter.
County attorney, you have any more?
The only matter I did skip over initially is that the Board of Ethics did meet in February for their initial meeting. And individuals who have not filed financial disclosure forms will be contacted by the county attorney's office over the next week. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, move on to the next, reading communications.
Warren County Probation Department monthly reports of criminal and family workloads for the month of December 2021. I'm sorry, 21. Adirondack Park Local Government Review Board 2021 Statement of Services. Cornell Cooperative Extension 2021 Annual Report. Lake George Park Commission 2021 Final Report on Lake George Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Program. Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp Financial Report dated October 31, 2021. Letters from Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth noticing public hearings regarding the Brookfield Power Project and the Fort William Henry Corporation Project, and Washington County Board of Supervisors Resolution number 42 of 22, appointing members to the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency and Civic Development Corporation.
All right, reading of resolutions.
Resolution numbers 40 through 108 and 2 proclamations were distributed to the board and posted to the Warren County website on Tuesday, February 15th, which met the distribution deadline specified in the rules of the board. Resolution number 68 was amended after mailing, and those revised copies were distributed to you earlier. There was also a 3rd proclamation distributed this morning as well. We do need a motion to approve the revisions to resolution 68.
Do we have a motion to approve resolutions? To resolution number 68. And that is,
Do you want me to explain that one?
yes.
So
rules of the board.
the resolution 68, that's the rules of the board. We had amended it to increase the number of positions that the sheriff was authorized to fill. When that came to you, it was copied from the rules of the board from earlier this year, not the ones that were amended already. So we just had to go in and fix it. For instance, one of the changes said that we still needed a 2/3 majority to amend the rules. So we just updated it. It was just the resolution was copied forward incorrectly.
Move back.
We have a move by Supervisor Dixon, second by Supervisor Thomas. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Both carried.
Okay. Yep, there are 8 floor resolutions in your packets. None of those were approved by standing committees, so waiving of the rules are required to consider those. The first one is a waiving of the rules for floor resolution number 2.
So we need a motion. Motion to waive the rules. Motion by Supervisor Conover, second by Supervisor Wild to waive the rules. Let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay.
Okay. So floor resolution number 1 is now resolution number 109.
Okay.
Okay. Next is floor resolution number 2.
Somebody want to make a motion, bring that forward? Motion by Supervisor Frazier, second by Supervisor Bramer. 20 members, the ARPA Advisory Committee to fill the vacancy due to resignation. We have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Carried.
Floor resolution number 2 is now resolution 110. Floor resolution number 3 is waiving the rules for floor resolution number 4.
Somebody want to bring floor resolution number 3, Supervisor Bramer?
May I move 3 through 8?
Can we do that? Yeah. The motion by Supervisor Bramer to bring 3 through 8 through the board. Do we have a second? Second by Supervisor Thomas. All those in favor say signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Carried. Okay.
So floor resolution number 3 is now 111, 4 is 112, 5 is 113, 6 is 114, 7 is 115, and 8 is 116.
Okay. Discussion on any of the resolutions in your packet. Supervisor Bramer.
I do have a roll call request on a couple first, if that's all right.
Sure.
68 and 89.
Anybody else? Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. A roll call on 62, as has been my practice since I've been up here, because it relates to health services.
Okay. Any other requests or discussion on resolutions? Any public discussion? Supervisor Bramer, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I know that there are 2 resolutions at the back of your packet regarding the ARPA Chair Committee, and I'd be happy to defer to my other colleague who is also one of the people in that resolution, but I would like to speak to it.
Okay. You want to speak now, or would you like to discuss it now, or?
I'm happy to defer to my colleague.
You referring to me?
Yes, the supervisor from Lake George.
I'm willing to discuss it. What do you want to know?
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited about the opportunity to be the chair of the ARPA committee. There's 3 reasons I'd like your support today. I have the energy, commitment, and communication skills to lead our committee in the way forward. I think all of us have the ability to lead a committee. Certainly, my colleague from the town of Lake George has many of those skills as well as be in front of us as far as a committee meeting. I am coming right off the NACO conference where I was definitely re-energized to come back to the county and work hard for all of us, work hard for our residents. As many of you may know, as personnel chair, I attended probably, I'm going to say roughly 200 meetings last year, maybe even a little bit more than that. And so I certainly have the energy to get through all of those meetings. Now that I'm not personnel chair, I have a little bit more time on my hands. I have been nominated to the NISAC Climate Committee, but that committee actually only meets a couple times a year. So I still have plenty of time, lots of energy to serve our county and make sure that we're moving this process forward. The second piece is commitment. I am committed to this process. I've been at it since the very beginning. I've gone to the trainings, as was mentioned. I have studied this handbook that was provided to us in the fall. I've reviewed the survey results that came in from the public, and I've looked at some of the information that is coming in from our stakeholders, not only in our community, but also from the county and particularly from our department heads like our treasurer. So I know what we have been after. There's been a fair, open, transparent process to get us to the point of distributing the funds. I know that it may seem like we haven't done a lot of that just yet, but we're on the cusp of doing that, and I'm going to hit the ground running and make sure that we are able to get those funds out working for the community as soon as possible. And the last piece is communication. I don't know about you guys, but I did not receive any communication from the chair of our board when the press was alerted to the fact that someone else had been designated the chair. I don't know about you guys, but I did not receive any communication from anyone else looking to be the ARPA chair. I am disappointed in the lack of communication. We shouldn't be finding out things in the press. I do know that I reached out to many people asking for your support. I didn't get to all of you and I apologize for that, but I would love your support today. And certainly I will be available to you in the future as we go forward. I always have my phone on and I always look at my emails and I always respond to emails to the best of my ability. And I will certainly report back to this committee, this board, with full reports about what we are doing as soon as we have resolutions ready to recommend to the board for approval. So for all of those reasons, energy, commitment, and communication, I am asking for your support today and vote for resolution 114, which is for Bramer for chair. Thank you.
Supervisor Dickinson, do you have anything to add?
I accepted your offer to chair this committee. I've never not met my obligations for any of the chairs I've ever had. I have, with other supervisors, started a couple committees, dedicated. Believe it or not, I'm still ambitious. And I don't see any reason not to have me chair this committee. I've been experienced at it and I intend to give it my all. I've already had a good number of phone calls preparing to do just that. So I appreciate your offer, Claudia, but I look forward to working with you on the committee. Thank you.
Supervisor McGowan, discussion on resolutions.
Yes, on 114, I will be supporting Claudia Bramer efforts to chair. I believe she has the skill set and the knowledge. She has been on that. There have been 3 ARPA meetings already. And Bramer has attended all 3. Dickinson has not attended anyone. Bramer has a 98.7% attendance rating on her meetings. Dickinson has a 27% show rating. So I would have to say that Claudia Bramer is the better choice. I did extend myself out to the chair once I heard this, and I think this is a very important committee to chair, and we need a huge leadership on this at $12.4 million, and I believe that Claudia is the person to have in this seat. So thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last year, when this committee was created, we went out to the public and we asked them what they thought about spending those ARPA dollars. I am in full support of Supervisor from Glens Falls to chair the ARPA committee, specifically because she's put the time and the work and the attendance in. And I think showing up is half the battle, and then learning and being willing to look at different perspectives is another. And she continues to show that ability in every decision that she makes. I think it would be well served by someone who has attended local, state, and national training. And I've heard many times in the paper regarding your appointments of positions that you like to try to put people with expertise in the right positions. But this position is not yours to put in. And that was made abundantly clear by our county attorney. It is the board's decision. And I would hope that this board would support putting a supervisor into that position that's willing to come to the table, roll up his or her sleeves, and get the job done. And with all due respect to the supervisor from Lake George, that didn't occur on this committee last year, even as a non-member. I think it's just too important. Also, with the other incredible responsibilities that supervisor from Lake George has on occupancy tax, I think that the time and the energy can be spent by a supervisor who is not appointed to another standing committee. And I would hope that this board would put political differences aside, or whatever other differences, and recognize the expertise and hard work of supervisors before us in this room to do the best job for the public. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody, any other comments? Supervisor Stroud.
Aren't we going to need a roll call vote seeing as we have two different people to vote for, 109 and
I
114.
think they're 110 and 114.
110 and 114.
Roll call on 110 and 114, Nick.
Yes, please.
Okay. Supervisor Driscoll and then Supervisor Conover.
Thank you, Chairman. What I'm going to say is a little difficult, but I think it's warranted in saying. I will not, I'm going to tell you who I'm not going to be voting for, as opposed to who I will be voting for. I won't be voting for any card-carrying member of a group called, that I read in the media, of the squad. Nor will I be voting for anyone who considers themselves to be a card-carrying member of the good old boys. I'm a 64-year-old man, so maybe I inherently are a member of that group. I'm sick and tired of cliques, middle school cliques that exist on this board of directors. 20 bright, intelligent, hardworking people who swore to serve the public to the best of their abilities, too often put these sides that shouldn't exist in this great institution. I'm going to be voting for both individuals, in my opinion, are capable of doing an outstanding job. I'm going to be voting as I always do, not because anyone promised me anything. No one has ever promised me anything, nor have I taken anything. I've corresponded with individuals. I've never taken a penny from the public in order to be an elected official. There's never been a Ben Driscoll, Friends of Ben Driscoll thing. I do it out of my own interest in serving the public. I hope that each and every one of you will vote your conscience, vote for the person that may be just a little bit more dedicated, more energy to the process. And that's how I will be voting. Thank you.
Anybody else comment? Supervisor Conover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I will be voting for your recommendation represented by Resolution 110 to appoint Mr. Dickinson. And I just would add, not to labor this, given the time of the day, that every municipality in this room is a recipient of ARPA funds. That includes Lake George. Every supervisor in this room that's a recipient of ARPA funds has to be well-versed in ARPA. Many of the supervisors have been communicating regarding ARPA from when ARPA was first announced and first received. And oh, by the way, we're also going to be receiving ARPA funds, the other half of our ARPA funds next year. And so I will be supporting and voting for Mr. Dickinson, represented in his appointment in Resolution 110. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any comments from the public? Don?
Hello, Chairman Garrity. No, there's nothing on YouTube.
Hey, I guess we vote on resolutions. Oh, we have comments?
102. 102.
Go ahead.
It was my understanding that we needed to get an insurance certificate on that one. I feel like it's kind of a moot point to even have this resolution when it's regarding allocation of occupancy tax funds to Winterfest. I don't know if anybody can answer that one.
102.
Oh, it's not 102? I'm sorry. Which one was it, Dennis?
I was just trying to find it. You said 102. And I said, no.
Was it 106? 106, I'm sorry.
What is the question on 106?
Did we ever get insurance from Winterfest? And is there even a point to addressing this resolution at this point in time?
I'll ask the county administrator. No, county attorney.
Yeah, I hope if I'm stepping on the county attorney's feet to say. I spoke with Christian Dutcher. It was either yesterday or the day before. and he was still working to obtain insurance. He hasn't, the market has substantially hardened since last year, and the company that wrote the policy last year was unwilling to write the policy again. Christian's been actively shopping and is still engaged in that process.
Supervisor Dickinson?
Ryan, are they doing the other functions of the Winterfest, or is it not doing anything?
No, Winterfest has been going on since the end of December last year, and I believe it goes through the end of February. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I believe it's only got a couple of weeks left.
So are they doing the wristband thing and all that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so the only thing they're not doing are the events, motorized events?
They're doing everything.
And what aren't they doing?
Well,
What's the insurance for?
Well, I think the answer, if I may, is the only thing that they're not doing is getting the $50,000
county.
in county funds, because they're not meeting one of the preconditions for that contractual arrangement, which is they have insurance coverage of a sufficient amount as required by the county.
I'm totally confused. I think we spent too long on all that other stuff. So if they don't get insurance, they're not getting the money, but they've been running this thing since last year?
They've been running it this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Right
been up
now.
and operating and doing his thing like any other.
So if they don't get the
Okay.
insurance, though, they're not going to get the 50,000?
That's, yeah, I mean, that's what the resolution is, and that's what the requirement is for every single entity which receives OCTAX funding.
Do they currently have insurance?
No,
No.
Excuse me.
I have a.
You want to answer?
Sure. Yeah, the entity that puts this on has insurance. They put Americaid on. But the question is, it's an insurance policy that will specifically cover these activities during Winterfest, and their existing insurance doesn't cover that. So they have to go out and get a separate special event insurance. Christian has insurance coverage between himself and all of the vendors that are participating. But the piece that he's been unable to get is the piece that the county requires. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Hogan?
Thank you. And could you confirm for me that in the contract last year with Winterfest, we had a payback clause? I'd like to know whether that's in this year's contract.
My understanding is there was a clawback or a payback clause in last year's version of the contract. I specifically did look for that provision, and it is not in the contract that was approved for this season,
Okay, can we have
which wasn't signed. So
can I request a roll call on 106, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
it's already got.
Supervisor Thomas?
It sounds like to me that we could approve 106 with the hopes that Mr. Dutcher is successful in getting his insurance.
Good point.
No, it's reappropriated.
Okay, Supervisor Bramer had her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On 112, which has to do with the replacement of the IDA member, I did send to you the name of a business person from Glens Falls who has experience in the city. I was wondering if you reached out to that person or interviewed them.
I have not, because the recommendation came from Washington County, and I have not had a chance to reach out to the one.
Okay, I would like roll call on 112, please.
Sure. Supervisor Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm going back to 106, and this is Winterfest. It was a very successful event last year. We're asking us to make a decision in terms of whether this is going to go forward in the future. I'm not sure I have enough information to say what are the risks if we don't have this. Because like I said, I think the whole business community would say that it was a successful event last year. Are we just going to toss this aside and say, there's no insurance and we can't find a way to make this work. I'd like to hear from the other supervisors that my understanding was a really positive event last year. And what we're saying is we're just going to toss it aside by not approving this, by approving this resolution, we're going to toss it aside, basically.
No.
It's going on. We're talking about
It's
setting
on
the money
now.
aside. The question is whether we can get the insurance to get it.
Supervisor Hogan, did you want to respond?
Thank you. It's happening. It's happening right now. And yes, it is a very positive thing. I asked for a roll call just to clarify for two reasons. One, I don't have a clear understanding of what our liability is to fund something that doesn't have insurance. And I haven't really, I don't know as we need to pass. What I was saying is I don't know as we need this resolution today. It's happening anyway without our funding. So, you know, if we want to start funding things retroactively, that's fine, but that's a committee level discussion. That's not really a discussion for here and today. I just kind of feel like this resolution is unnecessary. And then the second piece of it is I have absolutely no idea how or why that clawback clause ever got removed. And in fact, in committee, I did ask whether that clawback clause was there, and I was told that yes, it was. So I'm a little confused on that too. That's all.
Supervisor Wild.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It's all about, to me, consequences right now. You got someone who doesn't have insurance. We're offering to give them or take back $50,000. What are the consequences to the county if we do or do not pass this?
If I could just clarify, we're not taking back
They
$50,000.
didn't give them it.
We're not going to be, the entity is not able to sign the contract and meet the term conditions because they don't have the proper insurance that's required for the contract. So therefore, they won't be receiving the money from the county, and the county will not be creating a potential liability through funding the events that occur at the Lake George Winterfest. The purpose for the insurance is not to protect Lake George Winterfest, but to protect the county from any lawsuits that derive from that entity's activities during Winterfest. And nothing I'm saying is meant to suggest that they create a liability. I'm attempting to answer the question posed, which is, without the insurance coverage to protect the county is not, per the contract, entering into the contract or extending the money to them.
Supervisor Dickinson.
I want to make it perfectly clear, as Administrator Moore has said, they have insurance. They have insurance for all these events. They just are unable to get the county included on that insurance. So that's the drawback. They have insurance, they're having the events. The second thing I'll point out is this is a grassroots organization. This is the Lake George business people getting together and anting up and starting this Winterfest thing. It's been very successful. If they don't get the $50,000, my knee-jerk reaction is they'll probably stop doing it. They've already anteed up money. It's not like they didn't put any money into it. They put money and effort into it. And it's really well organized and it's very successful. I would be very disappointed to lose it.
Supervisor Bramer and then Supervisor Conover.
Thank you. I think actually everyone is saying the same thing. We're trying to make sure they're not losing the opportunity for the 50,000. So I think what my colleague from Johnsburg said is a good recommendation. Let's not pass this today because it sounds like that's reallocating it back into the OCTEX, which we don't want to do, it sounds like. We want to just leave it available for them once they get their insurance, which hopefully happens. Is that not what we're doing? Okay. Never mind.
I don't believe so. Supervisor Conover.
I may be misreading this, but I believe what's happening here is that these were funds that were appropriated and approved in 2021. We're now in 2022.
Right.
And so what this is doing is it's saying that it's reappropriate, and it uses the words to reappropriate these $21 in 22 so that we can expend them in 2022, because without that resolution, It doesn't say that you're waiving the insurance. It doesn't say you're waiving anything here. I see the county administrator shaking his head yes, and maybe he needs to amplify on this a little bit. So nobody's, what it's saying is that because we didn't enter into the agreement in 2021, we hadn't entered into the contractual agreement, then we could disperse the dollars when we disperse the dollars. But because we could not enter into the agreement in 2021, the dollars are being appropriate, have to be reappropriated in 2022. That does not mean that we're waiving anything here. I don't see anything here that says that we're waiving any insurance requirements. Well, so I would ask, if you would, Mr. Chairman, if we could have the county administrator comment.
Yeah, and to go back to Supervisor Thomas's point, there's two elements of approval here that the Board of Supervisors does with an event like this. One is to provide the appropriation from which to pay the bill, and two is to approve authorize the contract, which actually triggers the payment. So all we would be doing here is providing the $50,000 to pay the bill when the day comes that the bill would be paid. Right now, the bill being paid is contingent upon an insurance requirement that Christian is still attempting to fulfill. But this resolution does not trigger payment. It does not trigger, dispensing with that insurance requirement.
Supervisor Well.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, for the attorney, yes or no? No matter what we do with this resolution today, is the county liable to be sued?
No.
So if we pull it out, if we leave it in, are we at any consequential risk? Because we've supported this in the past. And now we know, a month after he's been running this event, we're going to pull back our money. Are we at risk?
No,
Not at all.
anybody can sue anybody. The question is, what are the merits of that lawsuit? And as the county attorney who's required to defend the county and its actions, as of today, there is no liability I can identify to Lake George Winterfest for the 2022 season.
Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you for one more opportunity. I think I've been unclear. My issue is not with the reappropriation. It is not with Winterfest. My issue is with the elements of the contract. Number one, starting to put in contingencies like insurance becoming available seems like a slippery slope. But number two, and more importantly to me, is the clawback phrase that was there last year and is not there this year.
That's an excellent point. It's an excellent concern, and it's one I would be more than happy to speak with the supervisor about individually, and then have a larger conversation by committee and even by the board. As approved by the county attorney is a phrase I see over and over and over again in many resolutions. There's some benefits to that phrase and there's some detriments to that phrase. I think that phrase needs to be quantified better. Because the county attorney's office cannot create material terms to a contract different than what's approved by a committee. So there has to be a larger discussion and a better understanding and maybe some guidance from my office as to what are standard terms and what are not standard terms that would either need to be negotiated or approved by the committee and then the board. Basically, what should be in the resolution and what shouldn't be in the resolution.
Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This came out of our committee, Finance. There are two resolves on it. One that hereby reappropriate funds not to exceed $50,000 and resolve the budget for 2022 is amended accordingly. This resolution does not deal anything with contracts, and just to be clear, this is all about reappropriating funds that were not taken last year so that they can be this year. Thank you.
Supervisor Marlino, you had a question?
Yeah, the only thing I can add to this is that I know, well, number one, there's only 2 weeks left. That's this weekend and next weekend, number one. Number two, way back about maybe 2 weeks ago, they were saying they had collected or sold 70 of those wristbands to collect the money to. So why it's not in the contract, I really don't know, but I think it should be something that should be put in before we finish it. But the insurance, the last I knew, that they couldn't get the insurance for the whole event, but they were using some of the insurance from Americaid and trying to get insurance companies to pay 1 week here, another insurance company, but I haven't heard anything since, so I can't give you an answer.
Okay. Any other discussions on resolutions? Supervisor Leggett?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 112, this is appointment of Charles Barton III to the IDA. I am vice chairman of the IDA. I've sat on it now for 7 years. Would like to give thanks to Michael J. Grasso for being on that board and serving for the length of time that he did. We will miss his participation and his knowledge that he brought to the IDA and the CDC. And we have had a chance to talk with Mr. Barton and see him at meetings as well. And I wholeheartedly support this resolution that's before us, resolution number 112.
Okay. All right, let's Supervisor. Beatty.
Yeah, could we take 110 and 114 and make it into one vote instead of having two separate votes? That's for the ARPA chairperson. Could we go around the room and take a vote? And we either say Claudia or Dennis.
There are two separate
Yeah,
resolutions.
I'd like to make a motion that we combine the two. I can do that, can't I, Amanda?
You'd have to essentially withdraw one.
Okay, I'd like
Withdraw
to,
one, which then we'd have to renumber the rest when you withdraw that.
Supervisor Thomas.
it's just common sense. It makes sense.
Supervisor Thomas.
I object because I want to vote for both of them.
That's a good idea.
Thank you, my colleague from Stony Creek.
From sunny Stony Creek, okay.
Okay.
You want to vote for
All
both?
right, let's vote on resolutions. Can we move?
Please.
Okay, go ahead.
Kevin.
Okay. You want me to go on these?
Yes, Amanda has some,
So first off, on resolution 68, that's amending the rules of the board. You may have noticed on here that the April board meeting is set for April 15th, which is Good Friday. Do you want to leave it on that day or would you like to move it back to April 14th?
Move it back.
We need a motion to amend it.
motion to amend number 68 to move the April 15th meeting to April 14th. Is that a motion, Mr. Wild?
Yes, I'll make that motion. It's
And I'll-
Thursday
I'll
instead of
Second
Friday.
by Supervisor Bruno.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, let's.
Kevin.
68 is amended. Also, is there any objection to combining some of the roll call votes, say maybe for 90 through 95? Have one vote and then one for 97 through 103? I
I'll
don't-
make that
were fine.
motion for both of what you just suggested.
Motion by Supervisor Beatty, second by Supervisor Dickinson. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, can we vote now? Sorry, Mike. Sure.
Resolution 89 concerning the pay, authorizing call-in pay. I would just like to make the statement that during the break that I had, I contacted Mark Stevens, who is the chief legal counsel for the controller's office, and he point blank said that retroactive is not acceptable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Marlino, did you have something?
Just, I mean, we bounced off of 106, I think it was. Did we come up with any other suggestions? And the only reason I'm mentioning it, and I know that the treasurer is here and he's going to know what I'm going to say, but at the end of last year, we went $2.4 million in occupancy tax money over the year before. And just to let everybody know, to collect $2.4 million in tax, $60 million had to be spent in our county to collect that kind of money. And I think if we make a wrong decision on the rest of this 106, we could lose the support of some of the people to keep running that to bring in the OpEx.
Okay, we'll vote on it. Supervisor Hogan.
Does 89 need to be a roll call?
What number?
Oh, is it already?
We already did.
89.
89 is the roll.
Okay, let's get rolling.
I'm ready.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman?
Mr. Weil, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just reflected on the conversation from our treasurer. Do we need to modify Resolution 89 to remove the retroactive?
Are you making that a motion?
Yes, I am.
We have a motion. We have a second by Supervisor Conover to remove the retroactive, but then to vote on the resolution as written, removing retroactive. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed to modifying 89? No? Okay. I think we can do it. Okay, now can we vote? Yeah, I've lost my,
Please.
I've lost my way.
All set?
I'm set.
All right.
So they'll make it
Oh, here we go.
start today.
So I know what I'm doing.
Resolution number 40, making supplemental appropriations. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Ms. Hogan.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud.
Yeah.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan.
Yes.
Ms. Seaver.
Yes.
Mr. Beatty.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Runyon. Yes. Mr. Conover.
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yeah.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 41, amending Warren County budget for 2022. Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Ms. Hogan.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud.
Yeah.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan.
Yes.
Ms. Seaver.
Yes.
Mr. Beatty.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Runyon. Yes. Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 62, appointing members of Professional Advisory Committee for the Health Services Department. Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Abstain or recluse?
Abstain.
Mrs. Frazier.
Abstain. Okay, yeah, gotta leave the room. Abstain.
Mrs. Frazier.
I'm sorry. Now, I'm confused on which one are we on, Amanda?
It's number 62, appointing members of the Professional Advisory Committee for Health Services.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Ms. Hogan.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud.
Yeah.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan.
Yes.
Ms. Seaver.
Yes.
Mr. Beatty.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Runyon. Yes. Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution number 68, altering the standing rules of the Board of Supervisors as just amended. Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yeah.
Ms. Hogan.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud.
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan.
Yes.
Ms. Seaver.
Yes.
Mr. Beatty.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Runyon. Yes. Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 85, which is amending the table of organization. Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Ms. Hogan.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud.
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan.
Yes.
Ms. Seaver.
Yes.
Mr. Beatty.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Runyon.
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 89, authorizing call-in rate for Director of Public Health and Patient Services. as amended? Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolutions 90 through 95 are all finance, looks like all appropriating funds and increasing capital projects and such. Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolutions all pass. And 97 through 103. Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolutions passed. Resolution 104, authorizing appropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget. Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
And Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 105, authorizing reappropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget. Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 106, authorizing reappropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget. Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Abstain. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Abstain for lack of clarity.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
No.
Mr. McGowan?
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver?
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty?
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Okay. That resolution passes with a vote of 556 in favor. Okay, resolution, let's see, we're on to 110, which is amending Resolution 12 of 2022, reappointing members to the ARPA Advisory Committee to fill a vacancy due to resignation. Mr. Diamond?
I got a question on that. Are we voting for the individual to be the chairperson? Or is it our vote, or is it two separate votes that does the board itself make the commitment to the members of the ARPA committee? Or is that the chairman's appointment?
So resolution,
I want to be clear on that.
Resolution 110, just getting that in front of me, which was floor resolution number 2. That's amending resolution number 12. That would appoint a member and make them chair. That would appoint Mr. Dickinson and make him chair of the committee.
Okay. No.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? No. Mr. Bruno?
No.
Mr. Driscoll?
No.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
No.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes, and that's a vote for unity. Let's end the division that was caused by a certain group last year, and I think Dennis can do that.
Point of order. I disagree with that. There
Okay,
wasn't a
okay,
certain group last.
okay, we're voting.
I
go.
voted yes.
Mr. Weil,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
No,
Ms. Seaver,
No.
Mr. Beatty,
No,
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes,
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Okay, resolution passes by a vote of 536 in favor. Resolution 112, amending resolution number 31 of 2022, appointing members to the Warren Washington County Industrial Development Agency and Civic Development Corporation to fill a vacancy due to resignation. Mr. Diamond,
yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Abstain.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Weil.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
yes,
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes,
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes. And resolution 114, appointing chair of the American Rescue Plan Act ARPA Special Committee. Mr. Diamond,
What was the question again?
this is voting on resolution 114.
Been a long day.
for Claudia.
Telling me. It's 114, appointing chair of the American Rescue Plan Act, and that would appoint Supervisor Bramer.
Supervisor Bramer.
Yes. So are we voting yes for that
Yes,
resolution?
for Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. Mr. McDevitt,
No.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
no.
Mr. Drossy.
No.
Ms. Hogan.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
No.
Mr. Merlino,
No.
Mr. Stroud,
No.
Mr. Weil.
No.
Mr. McGowan,
yes,
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
For the sake of putting the most qualified person in, yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
No.
Mr. Conover,
No.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
No.
That resolution also passes with a vote of 525 in favor. So you appointed two chairs. of the
We have two chairs.
Congratulations to my co-chair from
Uh,
the town of Lakewood.
Collective vote on the rest of the resolution. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. What's
That's the
next?
best way.
Privilege of floor. Any public comment, Don?
I have no problem with that.
Hi, Chairman Garrity. Nothing on YouTube.
All right, anybody in the room? Any public comment? Okay, announcements? Go ahead.
Barely make minutes.
well, no, I had a comment, I just, had a comment on the, what was the roll call there of the, appropriation of, the overtime? An 89?
89.
Did we set any rules of what consisted of a call-in? If it's a, a 5 minute, or is it a 4 hour minimum, or
We said 8.
did we talk about that, or?
I don't know, it's
I know we-
handled in the past, I don't think there's rules for, there is rules for non-exempt employees. I know there's rules for union employees. You want to address that, Mike?
Yeah, there is a setup already for $350 pay and so it's not as strict as what the board talked about. There is a policy in place, especially for the accounting for the district attorney and the public attorney.
So we have a policy for the exempt employees.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I'm going to be very quick about this, but I'd like to state my disagreement with a comment from another at-large supervisor from Queensbury very early on about the matter of having a voice at the beginning of the meeting for committee chairs. I believe I heard that he said that everyone had a voice last year. I know that the supervisor immediately to my left and myself never had a chance to speak during that session early in the day or early in our meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that that correction, if it was, if I'm right with my assumption, I'd like to make that assumption corrected on the record. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to thank the distinguished lady from Glens Falls for calling me out asleep at the wheel for not submitting a proclamation proclaiming February to be as Black History Month. In Glens Falls, the Fifth Ward has always had a tradition where the county supervisor and the member of the Glens Falls Common Council have always worked together. I worked with Bill Kenny for many, many years, and that tradition has gone on. I have the pleasure of working with Mary Gooden, the president of the local chapter of the NAACP, who is going to do a great job at the city level. And at some point, I will invite her to come up to meet the members of the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Comments? Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to announce that 9:30 to 11:30 next Friday morning, the Common Ground Alliance is holding its winter forum. This is for their community blueprint. Since 2007, the Common Ground Alliance has sent a blueprint for the Adirondacks down to Albany, walked it through the halls to be able to advocate for Adirondack-based issues. As the name implies, the Common Ground Alliance brings in a wide group of people that can agree on a certain set of items that will benefit all the residents and visitors of the Adirondacks. We are now expanding to even bring it into the community. There are 4 breakout sessions. Each one of these are what this board deals with all the time: a vibrant economy, housing, climate change, and community recreation. I'm heading up the breakout group for the community recreation. Our planner, Sarah Frankenfeld, will be a featured content expert there. We will be sending out the letter with the registration, which is free, to all the Board of Supervisors. I hope everybody can attend and hear the discussions that come from a wide range of individuals. Over 150 are already signed up. We would expect probably about 200 or so. Thank you.
Supervisor Bremer.
Thank you very much. I do want to say that I'm very happy and grateful for the board having voted me in as co-chair of ARPA. I actually think that that is a very strong message that this board can unify and we can pick good people who can serve the entire board and our communities. And I look forward to serving with my colleague from Lake George. Additionally, as my colleague to the right mentioned, there was a proclamation about Black History Month, and according to our new rules, I thought we needed approval from the board, and so I would ask for that if it is necessary.
It's done on the collective vote.
It was. Thank you
Yes.
so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Hold on, I have a couple announcements.
Just one last announcement. I promised that I will always mention COVID. We heard the sad news that the other day we lost another Warren County resident. Before people start popping the champagne bottles, let's be diligent. Let's continue to mask where we should be masking, doing all the things that we need to do in order to put an end to this pandemic. Thank you.
Okay, Public Service Commission is holding hearings on broadband on February 23rd, February 24th, March 2nd, and March 3rd, and they're important. I think you should be able to go online and register for those. And just early March, end of February, the basketball, Section 2 basketball returns to the Civic Center. It could use a lot of community support on those games. It's important to the community. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Wild. Okay.